What is up, Spidey fans, and welcome to News to Astonish, where we discuss comics, movies, games, and more. And welcome back to another exclusive coverage of Spider-Man PS4 from Insomniac Games. And today we're going to be discussing about a little article called Everything We Know About Peter Parker and His Alter Ego in Spider-Man. So the article starts off like this. From the moment Insomniac Spider-Man was revealed with the white spider logo on his chest, it was clear that this version of Spider-Man was going to be a little different from the hero we know, but he will be familiar and will definitely be Peter Parker under the mask. This is a Peter Parker story that is not Miles Morales in the suit, which is a question that everybody keeps asking Brian Intihar. He still gets bit by the spider, fair warning, but we don't really get to see the origin of Miles Morales. You will uncover elements of his backstory, mostly by collecting Peter's old backpacks strewn about the city, but this is a Spider-Man story that takes place well after Peter Parker became Spider-Man. So keep in mind, guys, we're not gonna have to see no Uncle Ben origin, no Peter Parker origin, all that stuff. He's already well established in this world. He's already been Spider-Man for a while, and that's one of the beauty of it. You can just jump right into it. Time has passed. He's fought all old villains and foes and everything like that, and we're just Spider-Man right from the get-go. We all knew that people have seen the origin story before, right? We know what that teenage Peter Parker is about. We didn't want to tell a story that had already been told. Insomniac writer John Paquette says, from the very beginning, Insomniac didn't want to be beholden to any established Spider-Man stories. Obviously, he should feel like the classic Spider-Man and Peter Parker that everyone knows, but we're doing our own thing. That's what they stated. We don't have to worry about the other stuff. Let's just do the best, most iconic Spider-Man story we can do. Christos Gage, a longtime writer for Marvel Comics, and Spider-Man, who co-wrote the game script. And it's a really cool thing because when you have Marvel comic book writers like Christos Gage joining the staff to write this game, it really reassures us that this is going to be truly a comic book based game. I mean, Spider-Man is a comic book character, but we will dive deep into the roots of Spider-Man, and some elements of like his classic stories will be in this game. So I look forward to that. Even though it's going to be its own story, you're still going to have Easter eggs and all that stuff in this game, which is really exciting. So moving on about Peter Parker. Peter Parker is a college graduate in this story. He was bitten by the radioactive spider when he was 15, but now he's 23 and has a firm grasp on his abilities. He's a scientist, but Intihar cryptically won't reveal more than that, saying, I can't tell you where he is working because we're actually not going to say until the game comes out. As a 23-year-old college student, Peter Parker is experiencing problems that we all will be too familiar with to anyone who's been in the same position, and that's just about anybody who's already in their 20s, including myself. And I know exactly how Peter Parker is because he's very a relatable character. I feel like I've gone through what Peter Parker's gone through. I'm a 27-year-old man, so I know exactly what he's feeling. And some examples of those feelings and those experiences are dealing with a lot of things that people at that age dealing with, like student loans, trying to start a career, struggling with money, and any number of things. Intihar says he's at another starting point in his life, which is a struggle. The Spider-Man side of his life going well, but in the opening moments of the game, right before he leaps out of the window to be Spider-Man, a letter slides under his door into his apartment, warning of eviction if he doesn't pay his rent soon. One of the talks that a lot of the people in Insomniac had was about what it was like to be in your early 20s, just out of college. You thought you could take on the world. You had all this passion and energy for changing the world, and you didn't have any of that cynicism that you do now as probably an older man. Insomniac worked closely with Marvel's executive creator, director Bill Roseman on the story, and his main advice was that the best Spider-Man stories are the ones where Peter Parker and Spider-Man's world worlds collide, and from there Insomniac set to work crafting a new but familiar version of the well-known character. And that's true. The best stories about a superhero or any other characters are the ones that are very conflicting, especially like with superheroes. Peter Parker and Spider-Man worlds are colliding together, they're conflicting with one another. Bruce Wayne and Batman's worlds are colliding together, and they conflict with one another. It kind of gives texture to our character, it makes it more interesting, more appealing, and those are the kind of stories that I really look forward to. And if you ever read Spider-Man comics or Batman comics or anything like that, you will find that those stories are the best ones that they deal with their self, conflicting ideals and all that stuff. And that was really liberating, Gage says. He's worked on video games in the past that were tied to movie releases and they were good and he enjoyed them, but at the same time you were bound to an external thing where they got to do their own thing. It was like when him and his wife, they were writing for the first season of Daredevil. You have 50 years of great source material to draw from, but you're doing your own thing. So it's awesome that they get to draw from like years worth of source materials, but kind of craft their own story and create their own thing, because nobody wants to relive an original telling all over again when you already know the story. People want fresh new ideas brought to the table. One of those elements was not ignored or changed for the Spider-Man character will be the quips. Spider-Man is a very quippy character and he likes to make jokes all the time. There are definitely more than one-liners, Gage says. Comparing what he has written for the assorted comics to writing for the game, players will be spending a lot of time with Spider-Man fighting bad guys after all. And it's not spoilery or anything, guys, just letting you know. There is a thing where Spider-Man jumps into a fight between two other factions that are enemies of his, and then they're fighting each other, and he says something to the effect of, "Guys, I know how to settle this. Dance off," Gage says. Imagine coming up with like 1,000 of those. It was also important to the team that Spider-Man and Peter Parker feel like separate people. As Spider-Man, he exudes confidence and speaks with conviction, but as Peter Parker, he stumbles with his words, kind of like the whole Superman Clark Kent thing. You're basically another person when you're in your costume, and then you're somebody else when you're yourself. You're alter ego, I guess you can say. And that's something that they didn't want to lose, even though he has more experience as the character, but that's something that they didn't want to take away. Kind of be able to distinguish between the two characters, Intihar says. The game takes place over the course of a few weeks in October. As a small detail meant to represent the passage of time, Peter, along with other characters in the game, will change clothes as the story progresses on. It opens in a way most Spider-Man stories would end, with Spider-Man assisting in the arrest of Wilson Kingpin Fisk after years spent on each other's fierce rivalry. Peter feels that this will finally be the moment he can relax. He thinks he can keep the city safe, preventing smaller crimes, but everything's going to be okay now. Intihar says, but the idea is that it's always about getting that next thing. If I do this, everything will be okay. But he always realizes that that's really never going to happen. The outside perception of Spider-Man will also shift and change as you move through the game's story. Some people will think that he's the best thing to ever happen to the city and will even stop him in the streets to take a selfie or even give him a high five. Other civilians, at a specific points in the story, he'll be seen as a menace. Paquette and Gage also shared some details about the length of the game's script, and to give you guys an idea, it's very long, about the equivalent of a 3,333-page novel, according to Paquette. And that's just the finalized text. Paquette has been keeping track of the game's word count, which is currently at about 400,000 words. But he says overall, he, Gage, and the game's other writers, Ben Arfman and Dan Slott. Dan Slott's a well-known comic book writer. He's been involved in several comic book-related games and movies and TV shows, and they have written about 800,000 words for the Spider-Man game for PS4. They're not afraid to throw elements of the story out if they're not working with it. And speaking of words, Paquette, one of the writers in the game, humored us for a question about what words Spider-Man won't be saying in the game, and apparently he will not say. Paquette says with a laugh, there is one word Bill Roseman at Marvel always gets on us about. They always try to get Spider-Man or MJ to say balls. For some reason, Bill always says no. Take that out. Gage has high hopes for this game and is awaiting its release with confidence. Gage also states that he doesn't want to jinx it, but he also feels like they're right on track. He's hoping that the fans will feel like when they play this game is a sense of finally. And he doesn't mean that in any disrespect to any past Spider-Man games. He means he played the original Atari 2600 game, but he's hoping Spider-Man fans will play and say, oh wow, I feel like Spider-Man. This is great. And this feels right. And I can agree with Gage 100% because alone, looking at the game footage that's been released for the past couple weeks, I already feel like Spider-Man. And I haven't even played the game yet. I just know that playing this game will make me feel like Spider-Man. And that's the feeling that I've always longed for in a Spider-Man game. The closest I've ever gotten to that feeling was playing Spider-Man 2 back in like 2004 for the PlayStation 2. That game, for the first time, really made me feel like Spider-Man. Other games in the past, like famously Spider-Man 2000, a fantastic fantastic game, but I felt Spider-Man was very limited in his abilities. I mean, being able to swing twice and jump at a certain distance didn't feel like very Spider-Man-y. It felt very handicapped. At the time, I was like in awe when I played this game, but it's not what I expected. And now, looking at this with the fluidity of the motion, the interaction with the NPCs and the characters in the city, you know, just the feel of it, the air, the ambience, the costume, the graphics, the textures, everything about this game is screaming Spider-Man. And this is your playground. It's just amazing, pun intended, but really exciting at the same time. And I cannot wait for this game. I am extremely excited. Guys, that's everything that you need to know about the Peter Parker character and Spider-Man, and let me know what you guys think. Are you guys excited for it? Please comment down below and let me know what you're most excited for down in the comment section below. Also, don't forget, I do have my giveaway going on for Spider-Man Collector's Edition. If you haven't subscribed already or liked my videos or hit the bell notification button, what are you guys waiting for? I mean, it's a free giveaway at $149 value. Spider-Man Collector's Edition. All you gotta do is like this video, comment down below, subscribe for more, and hit that bell notification so you don't miss anything. Thanks for watching, guys. Like always, I will see you all in the next comic panel.
Whew. Anyone else need a breather?
PlayStation